Hello everybody, I hope you're all well and keen to get sketching on sketch lesson number 4. Although technically it's only sketch lesson number 3 because last week I didn't give you anything to sketch because I spent too much time talking about sketching and how I use it as a thinking tool and a communication tool. So I hope that in some way last week inspired you to do more sketching, and this week we will actually do the sketching. So today we're going to be introducing sketching the elusive freehand circles and ellipses. This lesson, like usual, should only take about 10 to 15 minutes, and like the week before last, all you need is blank A4 paper and a blue or a black ballpoint pen. Cool, so our warm-up exercise for today is to do a full page of horizontal and vertical lines, but we'll start with varying line weight. So we're going to go from thick lines to thin lines as we go along. And I'm going to start on the vertical, so I'm going to go nice and thick and then try and get it thinner and thinner and thinner and lighter as we go until you can almost not see the lines. And then I'm going to start again with thick. 1, 2. Line weight is a very, very important skill to be able to control and master. So we will use this as an opportunity to expand on our abilities. And again, move your hand quickly. This is a warm-up exercise, so we want to just get it nice and free and easy. And remember, nobody's marking this, so just go for it. See what you can do with thick and thin lines. It got a little bit, terrible at the edge. And then we're going to go horizontal. So 1, 2, 4, 5, lighter and lighter and lighter. Just have that pen sliding gently across the page. Light and light and heavy. Light and light and light and light and light. Lighter to heavy. Cool. Okay, so there we've got our warm-up page. And if you find that as you're sketching, your pen starts to get a bit of like an ink residue as you go, just grab a piece of toilet paper or a tissue and just wipe the ink off around the edge of the pen so you don't start getting like messy splodges like this. That's not cool on a drawing. Right, so we've drawn a whole bunch of squares inadvertently, but horizontal and vertical lines. Go for it. Okay, so sketch basics, 2D shapes and profiles, we're still there, and today we're looking at circles and ellipses. So the circle is one of the most commonly used basic shapes that we use for stuff, right? I mean, there's circles everywhere, so we got to be good at drawing them if we want our sketches to be accurate and incredible and like even better. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start looking at how we construct circles and ovals. But we start that by doing a square. But this is going to be a center line square. So from the middle of your page, drop a line down the middle, and again, try and keep it as light as possible. And we're going to make a cross. Okay. So start with a cross. Then we're going to build a square. And if we want, let's say, our circle to kind of be like a nice sort of that size-ish circle. Remember, one of our general problems is that we draw too small. And so we want to try and draw a nice big circle. But okay, so we're going to start with a square, and you can see I've constructed a square with center lines. So it's actually now 4 squares. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take from the edge, we want to extend the circle out. Remember, a circle at a line intersecting a circle going through actually is sitting at 90 degrees, right? That's geometry for us. But it starts to curve immediately away from that. So we're going to have the line coming vertically out from this side and vertically out from this side, and it's going to curve around to meet the other side. So our circle is starting to be constructed like this. And now one of the things that I generally tend to do is to curve too much and to meet this point at the wrong angle. So we want to come out straight and then meet it straight out and then curve it straight away. And because I'm trying to draw this slowly, it's not looking so beautiful, but we're going to bring it out all the way around to that point there and then all the way around. Now there's two options here. We can either go too flat, so if we go like that, then that's not circle, or we can go too far out, and then we start to get like a cuboid circle. So we want to try and kind of find that happy middle between coming out vertically but then immediately start curving around to be able to get that circle. Because it's all good and fine to kind of say, well, I want to draw a circle, so just rah 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 rah, but you're not going to end up with any sync circle like that unless you're a genius, because apparently that's one of the things that you can do if you're a genius, is draw a perfect circle. I'm not a genius, so I need to construct it using those squares. So let me grab another piece of paper and let's try this again. And this time I'll draw one up over here, and I'll start with the square because I think maybe it's easier to start getting it squarish, and then center lines, so cutting it down the middle, and again, this is something that you need to start developing your eye on. So we want to be able to get that square without having to measure it with the ruler, because having to measure things with the ruler is good when we want to be super accurate, but not when we want to be able to quickly resolve problems or sketch things. Freehand sketching is a much more fluid kind of process of saying, how can I get it as accurately as possible, but without getting too technical with apparatus and stuff. So again, starting from the side here, we're going to bring it around. That's looking quite nice. Pulling it, and you don't have to worry about it being super intensely accurate. Again, this principle, as we start to build up and get better at it and apply it, becomes a bit of a guideline for constructing a circle. And you can use construction lines. You can go over it a couple of times so we start to get that circle, and then once we're sure we kind of know where we want to go, we can start bringing in that heavier line so that you can see where your circle actually comes through. And again, you want to try and keep it smooth and as neat as possible. But at this stage, it's not the end of the world if you have to do a line over a couple of times. So there, we've got a pretty accurate round circle, which would be much more accurate than if we just said, okay, center line, circle. Okay, so you can see that I'm actually quite impressed with that. That looks pretty cool. But then as I start to come around this side, it gets out and we've got a very flat, like a lobe, or sort of flat lobe over there. But that's quite nice and circular. Maybe I'm just really good. Okay, so what we're going to do there is I want you to just draw, again, start with a couple of squares, and it doesn't have to be a square in this sort of angle. You can do a circle, starting it with a square that's actually sort of maybe at a, sort of, in a diamond type shape. It doesn't really matter where the square, which orientation the square is, because that principle still carries through, that where the center line is, we want it to come through, we want to come around and push, really try and push this part of the line out. Generally, it needs to go out further than what we think it should, and then keep these sections as smooth, at least flat, and then sort of start immediately rounding. And you'll find that like one side of the circle is generally better than the other one, because I don't know, for me, I find that when my hand is covering that certain part of the circle, it's difficult to pick up, carry it through. But it's again something that requires constant practice to get right. And then once we're pretty sure that we've got the right curvature of our arcs, we can bring that through and complete a nice full circle with a darker line. So that comes out nicely. And there's a whole bunch of cool things that we can do with this. Now, this is if we want something perfectly circular. If we want to go with ellipses, the principle is the same, but again, then we'll start with a rectangle. So let's say we want to go with an ellipse and I'm drawing this quite dark. Normally you draw the outline of this as lightly as possible. We're going to go center line, and then on a true ellipse, again, this point here should be 90 degrees. This point right at that point there should be 90 degrees. So we can just kind of start our curve there, start our curve there, start our curve there, and then join them with as smooth an arc as possible. And so you can see again, it needs to push out this way more than I've drawn it on this already. So it kind of needs to go out like that, and then more out and then across to get a decent ellipse, because an ellipse is equal arcs on either side, and that they meet. So circle geometry, but not necessarily perfectly circular. So that's how we can construct various ellipses and circles. And what I want you to do is experiment with a couple of different sized circles. So you can start with one big one. Something else that's quite a lot of fun is if you start with one big circle and then you use one of the smaller circles, at least the smaller squares that you've drawn, to draw a smaller circle inside that section there. So you can get a nice circle going there. You can draw a whole bunch of, so you can have one big circle and then a bunch of circles sitting inside that circle, and carrying it through around there. So try and draw at least 4 or 5 different circles as you go. Then try a couple of different ellipses. Again, the same principle applies to being able to use that rectangle and draw another smaller ellipse in the one quadrant that we've drawn. And try and keep the construction lines, the things that we use to construct that circle, as light as possible, just so that you can see it and it can help you guide your pen as you go. And then when you've got your main line, the focus line, that circle that we're getting, then you can draw it in nice and dark. Cool, I hope that you guys had fun there. If you guys are super keen on doing something else, I'm going to show you how to break the rules quickly, and something that I really enjoy drawing for fun is organic shapes using circles, 2 circles or 2 ellipses to start with. So something that's really cool is if, again, I'm not going to use the construction principles that I just taught you, but if you draw 2 ellipses at any angle, I mean, this is technically, if you look at the center lines, it's kind of there and there, but you can really come up with some super cool forms by just dropping down an ellipse, and then joining it, so that essentially it's like an extruded form. And then if you want to, you can start to add like some detail onto that, so that you can see where that form is going. Maybe we can do a cross section there so we can see where those lines are, and then pull it through. So there we've got a pretty funky shape. And then what we can do with that is, once we've got the construction lines down, you can start bringing in some shadow lines, some darker lines, so that we can see what the complete form is going to look like. And there you've got a pretty funky shape. And you can do a whole bunch of different ones of those. So there's ones that you can do where you can bring two ones out and start making like funky Y-shaped things. So yeah, there kind of have another ellipse, be another ellipse over here. Maybe we'd want it to be curved, connected joint like that. And so this is, again, something that we can start using to create 3-dimensional forms. Again, we haven't introduced 3-dimensional forms yet, because we've just been focusing on 2D profiles, but I kind of like wanted to just jump ahead and show you some of the cool stuff that we can do. And also, don't be scared to be able to be drawing over something else. So let's say we draw a profile there and a profile there, and we can start getting one to cross over the other. But now I've already drawn this one in solid lines, so if I wanted to kind of show that which one was in front of the other one, I would have to draw this one and let this one sort of be sitting behind that other one there. That was really messy, but it was fun. And that's the whole thing about sketching, isn't it? Sketching should be fun. There's a lot of playful elements coming through in that. And yeah, again, just experiment. Sketch every day if you can, and just develop that skill of being able to get your pen to flow nicely over the page. Use those circles, use those construction tools, because again, at some point you're going to start dropping away from constructing the square and the construction lines, unless you need something super accurate, and your muscle memory starts to be able to know where it needs to go and what it needs to do. But you can see that, I mean, here my ellipse isn't perfect, and so it would be better if I'd used the construction to be able to create that and just make the sketch that we're doing really accurate. So experiment with different ellipses, circles, constructions. That's really, really important. And again, I hope that you had a crazy amount of fun with this. And yeah, good luck as you continue to kind of work towards the end of the term. And yeah, just keep pushing. The year is almost over. Exams are coming up. And yeah, all the best with those. Have a great day. Cheers, guys.